Every winter, someone tells you they're counting down the days until summer, like it's a sentence they're serving. Every summer, you're the one counting down the days until it's over, and somehow that makes you the strange one. Say you prefer the cold and dark to sunshine and warmth, and watch a person's face. It doesn't register as a preference, it registers as a problem to be solved, like you got lost somewhere on the way to liking the right season. So let's explain it, because there's real psychology behind why some people don't just tolerate winter, they genuinely prefer it to summer. And once you see what's actually happening, it stops looking like a quirk and starts looking like something closer to self-knowledge. Think about the last time you turned down a summer plan and had to come up with a reason, any reason that wasn't, "I just don't want to." You said you were tired, you said you had something else going on. You did the math on how much energy the explanation would cost versus how much energy just going would cost. And sometimes going still won, not because you wanted to, but because saying no in August apparently requires a permission slip nobody else has to fill out. Here's the first thing almost nobody says out loud. A lot of winter people aren't really drawn to the cold, they're repelled by the heat. And those are two completely different experiences wearing the same explanation. Real summer heat is a physiological stressor, not just an inconvenience. Sweating through your shirt before 9 in the morning, a headache that shows up uninvited and stays, that specific targetless irritability that needs somewhere to go and doesn't have anywhere to put it. Bright, unfiltered light that feels less like sunshine and more like something pressing on your skull if your nervous system runs even a little sensitive. Some people thrive in that, genuinely, good for them. But if you've spent every summer feeling overstimulated and a little guilty about it, the arrival of cold air isn't a mood shift, it's relief. It's your system finally being allowed to exhale. That sensitivity isn't random, and it isn't a character flaw. Psychologist Hans Eysenck, whose work on personality is still foundational in the field, found that introverts tend to sit at a higher baseline level of cortical arousal than extroverts, meaning their nervous systems are already processing more before anything even happens. Give that system a loud room, and it's working overtime by the second drink. Give it a 100-degree afternoon with nowhere to retreat to, and it's overwhelmed. Add in heat, noise, and constant daylight, and that system gets overloaded. Winter, with its shorter days and quieter streets, brings the input back down to something the system can work with. That's not avoidance, that's regulation. The same way putting on a coat when it's cold isn't weakness, it's responding correctly to the information your body is giving you. But heat only explains part of it. What's underneath has less to do with temperature and more to do with permission. Summer runs on a very specific social economy. Good weather apparently means your evenings stop belonging to you. Rooftop plans appear on your calendar without a vote. Someone floats a group trip, and suddenly you're the difficult one for hesitating. There's an unspoken rule that sunlight equals obligation, and opting out feels almost irresponsible, like you're wasting something that was supposed to be shared. Winter quietly cancels all of that. "It's freezing, I'm staying in" is a complete sentence. Nobody questions it. Nobody offers you a better coat as the fix, because there's nothing to fix. You're not being antisocial, you're being sensible. And for a lot of people, that's the first time all year their evenings actually belong to them again. This isn't really about disliking people. Plenty of winter lovers are warm, social, engaged. What they struggle with is the compulsory version, socializing that shows up whether you asked for it or not, delivered by the season like something you never subscribed to and can't figure out how to opt out of politely. Winter doesn't cancel connection, it just removes the obligation attached to it. You still go out, you just go out on purpose instead of by default. And here's the part that tends to surprise people because it sounds almost backwards. Psychiatrist Norman Rosenthal, who first formally described seasonal affective disorder in 1984, also identified a less well-known summer pattern version a few years later, where heat and extended daylight trigger real anxiety and low mood in a subset of people. It's less studied than its winter counterpart, but it's documented, and if you've ever felt something close to dread creeping in every June without being able to explain it, that's worth knowing exists. You were never imagining it. Which brings us to the thing underneath all of it, underneath the heat and underneath the social pressure: permission. Modern life runs on the idea that your energy should stay flat all year, same output in December as in August, but that was never how humans actually lived. For most of history, winter was a season of conservation. You stored what you had, stayed close to home, and slowed down, and you didn't feel guilty about it because everyone around you was doing exactly the same thing. Summer, by contrast, comes loaded with a quiet moral pressure. The long daylight hours start to feel like an argument for doing more, being more, showing more. Even rest starts to feel like it has to be earned or justified. Winter cancels all of that. The early dark isn't absence, it's a boundary, a built-in permission slip to stop. Nobody questions a slow, quiet evening in January the way they'd question the same evening in August. Say you went to bed at 9 in the summer and people ask if you're okay. Say it in December and nobody blinks because the whole world outside your window already went dark hours ago and agreed with you. For people who are naturally hard on themselves, who struggle to rest without first proving they've earned it, winter is the one season that hands them permission without asking for anything in return. So if you love winter, here's what that actually says about you. It says you notice more than most people are willing to sit still long enough to notice. It says you understand that stillness is not the same as wasted time. It says you've stopped needing summer's noise to prove you're living fully. And it says something else too, something quieter, that you've made peace with a version of rest that doesn't come with an apology attached to it. And that took longer to arrive at than anyone around you probably realizes. In a culture that mistakes constant motion for a life well lived, that kind of clarity is rarer than people think. You were never the odd one for preferring the quiet. You were just the one who noticed what everyone else was running from. So tell me, was it the heat, the social pressure, or the permission to rest that hit closest to home for you? Drop it in the comments. I read every one, and if this finally put language to something you've felt for years but couldn't explain, send it to the person who's been trying to defend their love of winter to everyone around them. If you sat through this whole thing nodding, there's a decent chance you also can't stand summer, and I made a whole video breaking down exactly why. It's linked above if you want to know what's actually happening there too. Subscribe for more videos on psychology and human behavior and the hidden patterns behind the way we think and feel.